The loved one, Allah, who is Ar-Rahman, Allah, who is Al-Mannan. La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. Muhammad is the messenger, to Allah is our return. La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. Muhammad is the messenger, to Allah is our return. La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. All praise is due to the one and only.
So from the coinage of the topic, oil subsidy management in Nigeria, what options? The options, by the time the lecturer will be concluding, we will all know what are the options available to us, either individually or collectively. But what we intend to get out of this is to be able to get all of us either prepared for the challenges ahead or redress ourselves in respect of the current situation. Of course, we are all aware the subsidy has been partly withdrawn. Petrol sells for 97 naira. During the strike, we all received various messages either on BB or email on what government is doing here and there. You might be seeing some of them today. However, collectively, we are here to look at it. What implication does it have on us in terms of our spending parity, disposable income? We should begin to readdress ourselves in terms of this is the way government is going, this is the way we should go along with it. Today's gathering is not for us to protest, neither is this for us to carry placards. It's a peaceful gathering, but rather to allow us assess situations and then also have an idea of what is happening within the government, what is our government position to some of these issues. I do not intend to tell us all this, except to prepare our appetite, so that when the lecturer is speaking, we will all follow very well. I'm sure the most junior person here, if he or she listens very well, we surely gain something, while the most experienced will have something to take home. For some of us that are already operating in the oil and gas, I guess we may get one or two things to learn. And for those of us that are not operating there, is it an avenue for us to venture into? Are there opportunities there? Are there, or is it restricted to the cabal? So I welcome Nojeem Jimoh to discuss with us oil subsidy removal in Nigeria. What options?
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونستهديه ونعوذ به من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. أما بعد, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Let me thank the executive, the Amir especially, for the opportunity to share this with brothers and sisters. The topic that is, you can see on the slide is a little different from the advertised topic. That is because this slide has been presented to different fora and for different reasons. However, there is adjustment at different stages to capture different audiences. So you may see that I'm skipping some slides, for instance. That would be because I consider it not of any benefit to this audience. The topic was on and off, and then on and off. It was on because we did not think the government would remove subsidy when they did, and then it was off because subsidy had been removed. No more arguments. And then it became on again because subsidy has been partly restored, and it is very much relevant today for at least two reasons. One, the House of Reps probe into the subsidy issue is very much alive. I was myself in Abuja over 2 days. Alhamdulillah, I came back in one piece. Secondly, there is no doubt that the subsidy is still going to be removed. And I think April is about the time that everyone in the sector believes that the subsidy is going to be removed. And no doubt the arguments or the debates are going to happen again whenever the government will choose to remove the subsidy. So for that reason, I think this is very much relevant for us. And we have had very many people arguing for and against, but the truth is you truly, really cannot argue either for or against something that you know very little about. So this really is to give you an insider's view of what is going on in the subsidy sector. A lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about, no doubt you have heard about it one way or another, or read about it in the papers. The only thing that I'm going to be sharing here is I've highlighted at least 8 different ways by which the subsidy regime is manipulated by those who operate within the sector. Now, by way of my company, the company Taros Oil and Gas, by the way, in the UK we will call this Taros Oil and Gas. In Nigeria it's called Taros Oil and Gas. It was instituted in 2007, but we got involved in the subsidy regime. We've been involved since 2010. So if everybody involved in subsidy is a cabal, then I am part of the cabal. Now, I would, we can't just go straight into a topic like this without having some background knowledge and the introduction, general issue about oil and gas in Nigeria. Crude oil was discovered in 1956 in an area that is presently located within Bayelsa State, and it took just 2 years for us to achieve our first commercial production, i.e., being in a position to ship oil out of Nigeria on a commercial basis. By then, the amount that was shipped out of Nigeria was 5,100 barrels per day. Now, about 20 years or 16 years later, Nigeria was now producing enough to be able to join the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. So in 1971, it became part of the OPEC, and the NNPC was established 6 years later. By the late 1960s and early 70s, production had reached 2 million barrels per day. If you compare that to 5,000 barrels per day in 1958, then that was a giant stride indeed. It was meant to be our salvation. I think it is debatable whether or not oil had in fact become our cause. And a friend of mine said that they are looking for someone to research, to do a PhD research into how the natural resources of a nation can actually become the cause on that nation. And without a shadow of a doubt, I think oil is more of a cause than a blessing to Nigeria. Now, in 2004, we were now producing 2.5 million barrels per day. Again, a giant stride. But currently, and I say this with a lot of emphasis, we produce 2.2 million barrels per day. You can see that I've written officially there, because in reality, nobody knows how much we produce in terms of crude oil per day. It is not impossible that the amount that goes out through the back door is more than the amount that goes out that is recorded officially. And the next slide sees us as the sixth largest producer of oil in the world. Again, I've put some asterisks there because it is not impossible that we are the first producer of oil in the world. The reason we are number 6 is because the number is granted based on your official recordings of what you produce in the world. By the time we factor in the one that is not recorded, it is not impossible. In fact, I am convinced that we are the largest producer of oil in the world. Some is produced for the nation, the others is produced for PDP and the rest of them. Apologies to any PDP that may be amongst us, but we shall go into that later as well. And I'm sure the ACNs would like to be there too, it's just that they are not there. So if they are criticizing, the criticism is a matter of why are you chopping it when we should be chopping it. Now, oil and gas contribute 20% of our gross domestic products. And for the benefit of those who are not of academic or business orientation, gross domestic products is the totality of all the goods and services that we produce in Nigeria. If we assume everything in monetary terms, the teachers amongst us, the worth of their teaching, the traders amongst us, the worth of their traders, of their trading, the cleaners amongst us, the bankers amongst us, everything that is done and produced in Nigeria, goods, services, if we give monetary value to everything, that is what is called gross domestic products, which in Nigeria we call gross domestic product. Gross is used in terms of discipline, like gross in discipline. If you are talking economics, it is gross rather than gross. Now, we contribute 65% of our budget revenue. And again, that is the official position. Only Allah knows what the unofficial position is. But it is huge by necessity, because if it only contributes 20% of our GDP, and then you would imagine that it will contribute about 20% of our budget revenue, but it actually contributes 65%. Meaning that if oil and gas were to dry up today, then Nigeria would lose at least 65% of every penny that comes of the budget revenue. Every penny that goes into making the budget. So running out of oil and gas is one thing that we certainly cannot afford. It's a position that we cannot afford to be in. However, we are not in a position to run out of oil and gas anytime soon, because as at the end of last year, 2011, our reserves, confirmed reserves, is 36 billion barrels of crude oil. If you divide that by number of days, by 365 days, you will get, I can't remember, but if you divide this by number of years, then even if no additional oil, crude oil is discovered in Nigeria, we have enough to last us for 49 years at the rate of 2.2 billion per day. Meaning that if the one that is stolen is factored into it, even if no additional crude oil is discovered in Nigeria, then I think we will probably have enough to last us about 100 years in Nigeria. That is how endowed this country is. But it also goes to show how such anyone with the knowledge of this and who has a bit of taqwa in him will be very sad about our situation, because in reality, given our natural resources, there is nothing, and I say this with emphasis, absolutely nothing that is affordable to the UK or American government that is not affordable to the Nigerian government. There is no social welfare that is given to the British or the Americans that is not affordable to the Nigerian government, given our level of natural resources. And we are not even factoring in other, I was talking about natural resources being a cost. Oil became a cost because all other natural resources in our own primary school days, anyone of my age and above will remember that we used to learn the 12 states, and then we will be mentioning all the natural resources that are found in each of the 12 states. We will say this one, and then we mention, and then this one, and then we mention. But today, you cannot even, you even ask somebody from your state, what is found in your place, you'll probably say oil. So you can see how a natural resources can actually become a cost. And that is why Ghana is at a threshold of becoming huge, big, successful, or beginning of a serious downward slope. If they take the Nigerian path, then Ghana is heading into a big trouble because they have just discovered oil and in commercial quantity as well. If they take the path of decency, then Ghana is about to overtake us in so many respects because they have discovered oil as well. Now, the oil subsidy regime, the idea of importing oil actually started in the 1970s. And this was because Nigerians, generally speaking, were affluent. Very many more people were able to afford cars. There were more cars on the road than we had oil to support in terms of petrol, diesel, and oil. So in the 70s, the government started to import oil just to be able to meet the local needs. And it was meant to be a temporary measure, something that was only a matter of time before our refineries would be up and running, and then we'll be able to meet our local demand. What was meant to be a temporary measure in 1970 has become a permanent measure in 2011. What's the difference between 1970 and 2011? 40 years. So anybody that is 40 years or younger here has never known a period in which Nigeria was not importing oil. Yet, it was not meant to even happen for 4 years at the very most. So the government started to subsidize oil at the same time for the simple reason that this is an oil-producing country and Nigerians should not be paying what people living in non-oil-producing countries would be expected to pay. That was how the idea of subsidy commenced. Now, officially, and this is the last slide of that page now. Now, depending who you listen to, our daily consumption of petrol is 30 million liters, or 35 million liters, or 59 million liters, or 0 million liters, depending who you listen to. But I think the current official figure coming from the petroleum minister herself is 35 million liters per day. Now, we have 4 refineries in the country working at optimum capacity. The 4 of them can only produce 1/3 of our daily need, meaning that we are going to continue to import for a very long time to come. But in reality, they produce less than 1/10 of our daily need, meaning that we are going to be importing even for a very long time to come. And I can assure everybody sitting in this room that in 20 years' time, Nigeria will still be importing oil. There is no doubt about that.
So no hope.
No hope as far as importing is concerned.
It's causing
Now, the landing cost of petrol, when it comes from wherever it comes from, mainly Europe, sometimes from South Africa, Geneva, London, is between 145 and 150 naira per liter. However, it is sold for 65 naira. were now 97 naira, meaning that for every liter of petrol that we put in our car, the government is paying the difference between 145 and 150 naira per liter. And even the landing cost is debatable. Again, it depends who you talk to. Yes, and I'll do that. I'll do that later. Yeah. Now, so in short, so it's 97 naira now. If the landing cost is 150 naira, then the difference between 150 and 97 is effectively what the government is paying in subsidy. However, I've highlighted, okay, the color is not very bright there. That last line, because this is where the problem really started. You know, for 2011, the government budgeted 240 billion naira for oil subsidy. But by August of the same year, the government has spent 931 billion naira, a 700% increase. Now, how that was possible at all, it's beyond anybody, because it defeats the whole idea of having a budget. You have a budget as a statement of, this is the maximum amount of money that I can spend on this issue. And then, even 2/3, 3/4, you are not even at the end of the year, you spend 700% more than that amount. The figure that was being banded around then was 1.3 trillion naira. However, when the central bank people appeared before the subsidy, we got to know that it was 1.7 trillion naira. So in 2011, we spent about 1.5 trillion naira above the budget for fuel in the same year. And the simple reason this was possible, which should never be, was because it was a first-line charge for the benefit of those who may not understand that, meaning that NNPC will sell crude, and then the minister in charge of petrol will take money that is meant for subsidy before the balance is now remitted into the nation's account. Meaning that if the budget for subsidy was an endless pot, it could be 10 trillion naira. As long as NNPC is making enough money to cover it, then the government is spending. So in reality, so when you saw the ministers appearing before the panel and they're saying, the budget is not a budget as you know it, it's not a budget as such, it's a budget but it's not a budget. This is what they are saying, because a budget means that you can't spend beyond this, but it's not a budget when you can spend beyond it without borrowing money. The only way you would have been able to spend beyond it is to borrow money. Now, we are entering into the crux of the presentation, little by little. The original place where I presented this and what I would have done before the subsidy was removed was to make it a balanced argument and then to let people make up their own minds and then for companion and criterion to be in a position to issue an official statement. However, let's start with the arguments for the removal of subsidy. This is the argument coming mainly from the government. One, they say the regime is corrupt and benefits only a few. Now, this is rich coming from the government. Because if you are going to accuse someone of running a corrupt regime, it will be that it is someone other than yourself. The subsidy regime is managed, is administered by the government, so any corruption within that regime could only have been happening because the government allows it to happen. So for the government to come to us and say we want to end fuel subsidy because the regime is corrupt is rich coming from them. I mean, it's an irony of a statement. Secondly, that by removing subsidy, private investments will take place in the refineries and all that. But then, they remove subsidy on diesel, the refineries have not taken place. And that with local refineries, Nigeria will benefit from higher oil price internationally. Now, this is a legitimate argument that if we are producing, it means that we will be selling to other nations as well. And whenever oil price will go up, we will be selling internationally. at the international price, so Nigeria, more money would come in for Nigeria. But then it begs the question, I mean, hasn't the government always known this? Don't they know this? So how come it is only now that they know that the refineries are working, then we'll be able to make more money, and that the economy will become more active due to the spin-off from local production? Again, it's a legitimate argument. You will need more trucks to move the oil. You will need more storage facilities, tank farm. You will get more people working in each of these places, and many more people will be made millionaires and billionaires. This is the government talking. The government talks further that by removing the subsidy, then about 1.3, which we now know to be 1.7 billion naira, will be available for us to spend. The truth is that money is still available for us to spend and can be available for us to spend even with the subsidy in place, as we shall see. And the next one is just an extension of that. I mean, the opponents will say that this is an everyday expectation of citizens against the government anyway. And Nigeria is not the only place where oil is subsidized. So to now say that they will not be able to do health education, it's now here the government is comparing removal of subsidy to mobile phone. That when mobile phone came, everything was very high, very expensive. But today, due to competition and all, the cost of the mobile phone and the cost of actual calls made is very much reduced. And that the government will take steps to cushion the impact of hike in fuel prices. By the way, anytime I will say fuel, my children will correct me that it's fuel, daddy. It's actually fuel. But then daddy will always remind them that daddy is Nigerian. You are British. So that one is actually, if you listen to all those people on channels, I think they are very well trained. Virtually everybody on channels TV pronounces it fuel. And that is the actual correct pronunciation. But then, fuel is our Nigerian pronunciation and is accepted, Ravi. Even if I say fuel, you won't know what I'm talking about. I'm on my own. Now, so that the government, which is the palliatives that the government has introduced, and personally, I actually hate that word, palliatives, because it's something that you provide for like refugees, people who are stranded, people who are helpless, people who need help. So we don't need that. We just need the government to do what the government is meant to do for the citizens, rather than giving us palliatives. Well, when someone says we are refugees in Nigeria, we probably worse off than refugees in other places as well. So these are the arguments on the part of the government for removing the subsidy. Now, going to the arguments against, that corruption, not subsidy, is the problem, and politicians are the beneficiaries of this. And that is true, and I'll go into that a little later. Secondly, and these are official figures, I actually got this from this day newspaper on October 25, that even with subsidy, Nigerians pay more per litre than all other OPEC countries. If we assume exchange rates in all these countries to be 155 naira per dollar, equivalent of their own country, in Nigeria, we've been paying 65 naira, now 97 naira. In Saudi Arabia, a litre of petrol sells for equivalent of 18 naira. In Kuwait, it sells for 32 naira, 57 naira in the United Arab Emirates, 34 naira in Qatar, and 31 naira in Algeria. Now, these are fellow OPEC countries. Now, it is 97 naira in Nigeria. So, and this is still with subsidy. So even without the subsidy, even with the subsidy in place, we were paying and we still are paying more for petrol than all these other countries. The government will tend to make a habit of comparing us with Ghana, that Ghana has removed petrol on subsidy and stuff like that. How on earth would we start to compare ourselves with Ghana? Now, if we don't have to buy generators and we don't have to put this one petrol in generator, if it's all about cars, majority of us